What's going on, everyone? Alex De Silva, Happy as Larry Group. Welcome to my first episode of the Feel Good Show. We're here. We're live. I'm live. This is pretty awesome. I've got to be honest. This is really, really exciting stuff. First episode. Wow. I'm going to be looking back at this and thinking, God, I'm really nervous. But you know what? This is a really cool journey, and I'm going to tell you, the listeners who don't know, a little bit about myself. So I was born in Brazil. I came to the UK. I live in London, and I came here when I was 11 years old. I couldn't speak a word of English, and I grew up very different, I remember. I always felt different. I always felt different from other people. I was always a happy kid, but there was something inside me that at the time I couldn't describe, and it just made me feel really uncomfortable. And that little thing, which I know now, was fear. I was full of fear. I was always really happy, really kind, really loving, very sensitive, very smart kid, very intelligent. But I was always full of fear, always really, really scared. And I remember being a huge people pleaser from such a young age. And, my journey in life, was, or has been incredible, There's been a huge ups and downs, a lot of downs, a lot of suffering, a lot of happiness, a lot of mixed emotions. But you know what? That's the reason why I'm here. I'm here to talk to you. I'm here to take you today on this personal journey, which will then lead on to a huge, incredible journey, not just for me, but for you, the listener, and for the guests, which I'm going to bring in. And we're going to get deep. We're going to get emotional. We're going to get vulnerable. We're going to leave the egos at the door. We're going to share some incredible stories. You guys are going to learn something. I'm going to learn huge amounts from this. And I cannot wait. So growing up here in the UK was really great. I came from Brazil. I came from really, really humble beginnings. My family were very, very poor. I lived with my grandmother when I was in Brazil. I grew up with her and my mom, obviously, who has always been around. I've never known my dad. I met my father when I was 32 in Brazil. He didn't know I existed, and I thought he was dead. This is another story. And I grew up with this huge family around me. I always had so many people around me, but I always felt really alone and isolated. I always used to play on my own. I was always very smiley. Everyone who knows me will see me. I've got a huge smile on my face all the time. But that was a mask to hide what was really going on the inside. I had a lot of pain. I was very sensitive when I was a kid, and I didn't know how to deal with those emotions. It was really hard for me. And talking about it as a man now is something that, I had to overcome that. I had to overcome the ego. I had to overcome the shame, the embarrassment. And, because there are a lot of people who won't agree with this, won't agree with me as a man being so open and being so vulnerable. And I understand today that that's not my problem. It's theirs. It's something that I'm triggering in them that they need to look at. And so if this is making you feel uncomfortable, go find out why. Or you're more than welcome to hit me up, and I'll tell you why. And it's incredible. And listen, it's nothing to be ashamed of, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about. As I grew up, I had to go through a few ups and downs in my life. I came to the UK, as I said. I experienced a lot of bullying. I put on a lot of weight. So I was very fat when I was a kid. It's very unhealthy. I had this unhealthy relationship with food. I was addicted to food. I was addicted to cookies and sugar. Um, I used, food to change the way I was feeling, and that was something I didn't understand. I didn't understand until recently that, I had huge addiction problems from a very young age, and I didn't know how to channel, my feelings. I didn't know how to channel, what was going on with me. So I expressed them in different ways, and ways which I didn't understand, ways which I was told, is not the right thing to do. So I felt ashamed. So what I started to do, I started to bottle my emotions and my feelings. I boxed them up into my Pandora's box. And, by the time I was an adult, you wouldn't come near me. I had this huge block, around me. I had these barriers around me, and you would not come anywhere near me unless I allowed you to. Even then, it would be a very small, it'd be a very small amount. I had a lot of secrets which I kept with me for a long, long time, and I was suffering for a long, long time. I had my son at 17. I wanted to go to uni, and, I wanted to be successful. I wanted to chase, this city dream of being a banker. And those dreams, unfortunately, didn't happen. My ex-girlfriend fell pregnant, and my life changed from that day. I never got to go to uni. I got my education, but I didn't get to go to uni. I didn't get to do my degree. But do you know what? It was the best thing that has ever happened to me. Because although I felt very rejected by friends and family, and it was a tough thing for me to swallow. Rejection was something I experienced, throughout my life as well. And it was really tough for me, So what I did, for me, it was, I kind of stuck my finger up to the world, and I said, I'll show you, and I just had this incredible ambition to succeed. And I did. I succeeded in life, managed to get myself that job in the city. I wasn't a banker, but I had an incredible job, which I loved. And I worked really, really hard. I worked extremely hard. And what I did is I bottled those emotions, and I said, I'll show you. I'll show you that I can do this. So this little boy very quickly became a man. And then I got myself into another relationship, and I had a daughter who's now 13. My son's 20. He's an incredible human being. He's out in Australia enjoying his life. And my daughter, is here in London, and she's a beautiful little woman, And, I always wanted to please other people. I realized for so many years, I kept living for other people. I kept living for my mom. I kept living for, my friends, my partners. And I just kept forgetting about Alex. Who's Alex? And it was just, I literally went to the background, and everybody else was in front of me. And I completely forgot who I was. Completely. I didn't even know who I was. Not allowed to forget who I was. I didn't know who I was. And that journey continued, of pain, suffering, and I was hurting a lot because I didn't know how to express what was going on for me. And the times that I did, the times that I tried to be honest, it almost got thrown back in my face. So I learned that for me, sharing these emotions is a weakness. I don't want you to come anywhere near me. I don't want to show you that I'm in pain, and that for me became the norm. And I realized today, being a life coach, success coach, performance coach, however you want to label it, and working with mindfulness and meditation as well, I understand that behaving in that way, that behavior is absolutely normal. Men behave like this every day, and they don't see that there is nothing wrong with this. They don't understand that that is not the way to live, and I just grew up in that same, in that same conveyor belt, just kind of going round and round in circles, just living life. And, I was kind of in a hamster wheel, that hamster wheel that I can never get off. I just kept going round and round in circles, just thinking, is this what my life is all about? So what I did is, when I hated my life, I stuck with it. for a short time. So whether that was a relationship, whether that was a friendship, whether that was a job, I'll just self-sabotage. That was my thing. I'll very quickly self-sabotage and just watch everything around me just fall to pieces. And I had no remorse. Actually, I did. That's a lie. I did. I was very remorseful about a lot of things that I did to people, emotionally and, probably physically, and, how I behaved. And, you know, of course there is an element of remorse there. I'm a human being, and I've got a big heart. But there was also that element where you hurt me, I hurt you attitude, which is really bad. And I understand today that, I did hurt a lot of people along the way. And I'm very glad and pleased that I've been able to make amends to a lot of the people that I've harmed. Some people, unfortunately, I will never be able to, but, that's not down to me and my willingness. I have to respect, other people's boundaries. And, listen, if the opportunity is ever there, I will do whatever I can, because I've learned today that, I live a completely different life. So I went through huge drug addiction. I fell into alcoholism and drug addiction, as well as I cross-addicted into, sex and food and porn and, you name it. I pretty much cross-addicted to everything. If I wasn't addicted to one thing, it would be the gym, it would be smoking, it would be drinking, it would be drugging. I experienced every single one of them. And for me, that was my escape, for a very short space of time, whether it was half an hour or a few hours. I escaped from what was going on in my head, and I escaped from what was going on in my heart. Those emotions that kept telling me, stop doing this, stop doing this. I just couldn't escape. And the way that I escaped reality was to do all of those things. And again, that's something that I can touch on. But you know what? I overcame those things. And, I can talk about that on another episode, which I will. I'm going to go deeper into that. But listen, my life today is absolutely incredible. I still have ups and downs. That's just life. There are certain things which I can control, and the things that I can't control, I've learned to accept, and that's just life. Life's incredible. Listen, I've heard someone say before, that the odds of us being here is 400 trillion to 1. So I love my life. I appreciate every single thing that I have, whether it's good or bad, because everything that I go through and experience is an experience. And it's something that if I take it the right way, which I always try to, I learn something from it. Life is just a huge lesson. So, what is the podcast all about? I think I've kind of touched on some of it. And, the podcast is going to be focused on my mission statement. It's a personal mission statement, and it's my company's mission statement, which is helping to change the world one person at a time. I want to reach a male target audience. I want to build relationships with individuals, my guests. This is something personal to me. I struggled with building relationships with men. I grew up around a lot of women. So this is something that's quite personal to me. And I want to kind of open the lid on Pandora's box, not just for me, but for all guys. I think we need to cut the shit and stop, pretending that everything is okay. Pretending that, I'm a big dude, I can't show my feelings. That stuff's rubbish. It's old stuff, and I think for me personally, and I only speak from my own personal experiences, I've had to overcome all that stuff. I've had to squash my ego, and I've had to really bury my ego and humble myself, and start to overcome a lot of diversity. So the podcast is this: talking to men, getting open, getting honest, getting vulnerable, talking about things that we usually don't talk about. Communicate with each other openly. I'm going to be talking about business. I'm going to be talking about sports. We're going to have fun. I'm going to be talking about relationships. I'm going to be talking about health, mental health, physical health, things that we need to be looking out for, things that we actually avoid because our egos, make us think, oh, if you look at these things that you're weak. No, you're weak if you don't do these things. you know. So what I'd like to do by launching this is to help us to grow, not only as individuals, but together as men, you know, to be able to support each other and to be able to actually be there and just be honest with each other. I've started doing something like this already, and you know, and the effects have been incredible. So, you know, I want to take this globally. Who's the podcast for? It's my male audience, you know. It's the guy who's on his way to work and doesn't know what to do about his job. It's the guy who is struggling in his relationship, whether it's with his mum or his father, or, you know, with his partner or friends, or maybe social circle. The guy who's struggling, you know, maybe he's being bullied by the boss or someone at work, you know, but doesn't know how to express that, doesn't know how to feel accepted. The guy who's suffering from mental health, who's suffering from depression, who's suffering from fear and crippling anxiety. You know, I want to talk to you. I want you to listen, because I've been there, you know, and a lot of the things I'm going to share are from personal experiences, you know, and I'm going to then flip the lid and I'm going to talk to you about sports. I'm going to talk to you about CrossFit, mixed martial arts, which are two things which I practice a lot, you know, and the usual stuff, you know, cars, bikes, business, how to set up a business, how to become successful in business, you know. So if you're the type of person who is looking for the answers, doesn't know where to find them, well, you found the right place. If you know somebody who's looking, you know, direct them in this way too. What's been my biggest challenge, you know, in setting up this podcast for me was narrowing this down, you know, with my target audience, focusing on males. You know, I wanted to kind of reach the world, but I needed to really narrow this down quite a lot. So, you know, that was a struggle for me because one, you know, I'm a huge people pleaser. And two, I don't like leaving people out. So this is a massive struggle for me. But this is personal for me, you know, personal because I want to grow from this. I want to learn. I want to develop always, because, you know, everything that I learn, I teach. So what I wanted to do is to go into something that meant a lot to me from a personal perspective, you know. So what I did to overcome this is I took a step forward, you know. I took the challenge. I said, let's go, let's do this. I narrowed this down to a male audience, you know, and I said, all right, let's focus on this. You know, I went out to a handful of guys and discussed, you know, the podcast, the topics, you know, some of the things that I want to talk about. And it was received really, really well. And it made me even more motivated to do this, you know, because if this small audience is pumped to hear what's going to come from me, you know, and, you know, my guests, I can't wait to hear your feedback. You know, I'm really looking forward to listening to you and find out what you guys think about this. So one thing that I've learned in life, man, is listen, you can overcome anything. I can overcome anything. You know, I own what I say now. Instead of saying you, we, is I. I have overcome a lot of things, and I'm very proud of myself, you know, for that as a man. And I've grown as a man, and I continue to grow as a man, because for me, it's not let's just do this for, you know, X amount of time. For me, I've learned that I have to make everything that I do a way of life, you know, whether it's from my personal perspective, whether it's business, you know, whether it's friendship, whether it's social circle, whether it's sports, it doesn't matter. You know, I have to put everything into this, and, you know, it has to be continuous. So, you know, that's how I've learned and continue to learn how to overcome things. And it's always going to be, you know, things in life that petrifies me, that I don't want to do, this being one of them. But I overcome that, you know. I was able to overcome the diversity. I was able to overcome my fears. And here I am speaking to you, hopefully helping you to overcome something, you know, and we're on this journey together. So what are my ambitions for the next year? To get bigger, to get a huge audience, incredible guests, male guest that can come in and talk about, things that I love to talk about, that you love to listen to share ideas, to share, most importantly, solution, to give you value, to teach you something that you can take away. So when you pull your headphones out, or when you're listening to this at home, that you can take your earphones off and go, right, I'm ready to crack onto the day. I'm ready to just smash through life. But most importantly, I want you as the listener to grow mentally, physically, spiritually, because these things are important. And I'm going to challenge the status quo. I'm going to go, says who, to, men are supposed to behave in this way. Says who? Where's the rule book? So there's going to be a few little things here as well that you guys are going to be interested in listening to, because I'm going to challenge things. I'm going to challenge society. I'm going to challenge this status quo of how we should be, how we should dress, why are we chasing money. And it's going to get interesting. But as I said, ego's at the door. Let's talk, as men. So, the next year is going to be really exciting, guys, and I cannot wait to hear from you, to get your feedback. I can't wait to have you here. This is not going to be a celebrity-led podcast. This is going to be real men coming in here, telling their stories, how they overcome diversity, whether you've been in the army, whether you tried to commit suicide, whether you were a drug addict, whether, you went from, being a bum to creating a successful career, doesn't matter. I want to hear from you, I want to hear from you. I want you to sit with me, let's sit down and let's talk, so that this community grows and grows and grows, so that we can help each other. So, and listen, women are welcome too. I grew up with women, so I'm all over, getting feedback from the ladies, and understanding how this is making you feel, listening to guys getting open and actually talking about relationships, sex, and uncovering certain things that we probably don't talk about in front of you. It's kind of like boys' corner, and it'll be interesting to kind of hear that, because I think it's about time we stop with this, excuse my language, this bullshit where we can't communicate openly and honestly because people get too sensitive. I really want us to be able to share, in a loving way, and hopefully in a way that is going to be effective. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. I cannot wait to carry on this journey. Have an amazing day. Have an amazing afternoon, evening, whatever it is that you're doing. And I cannot wait for the next episode. Hit me up if you've got any questions. If there is anything you want to say, if you want to give me some feedback, go to the website, which is www.happyaslarrygroup.com. You can email me directly from there. And I look forward to carrying on this journey. I will speak to you very soon. Take care.